Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic. What's the craziest butterfly effect that happened to you because of a small decision you made? Made a last-minute decision to go to a friend's divorce party and met my wife. Different people. Right. Yeah, haha, the divorced person was a mutual friend. My wife got an email from her old colleagues the day we returned home from our honeymoon, asking if she wanted to star in a short film they were doing for fun. She said sure, and asked if I could come along, as she knew I had an interest in movies, but at the time I worked in life insurance and was miserable. It was more than an interest. I had always wanted to make films, but never made the right connections with people and didn't know where to start. I made friends with the producer of that short film my wife was in, and 11 years later filmmaking and video production is my career. I've shot feature films, short films, video for TV and web, and all over the world because of that one email to my wife. Changed our lives. Oh, and that original short film never got finished, lol. Edit, wow. Can't believe how this blew up, and it's been so positive. I'm all about helping anyone and everyone that may be in the position I was in however I can. Many of you have asked similar questions, asking to see some of the work I've done or for advice. I'm happy to help. I started a room chat, so if you want to join, send me a DM and I'll add you. Thanks everyone. I definitely thought this was gonna be about porn. Could be. My husband. He found out after 18 years that his mom's side of the family was Spanish, not Mexican. He found this interesting and changed his country to Spain on MySpace instead the US where he really was. Meanwhile in Australia, I was helping my friend find Spanish people to add as a friend as she was learning the language. I came across my now husband and decided to send him a friend request as well. We got along really well and met in person after 3 years. Have been together 11 years, married for 7. If he didn't change his country to Spain, and only for a day or so, we'd never know each other existed. This one is the best I've read so far. Every decision you have made and will ever make has eventually lead to you reading this sentence. If you ever become rich and successful, remember to thank this sentence. The first day I ever signed up for internet back in 1999, I installed MIRC, because it was on the starter disk my ISP gave me, and joined a random chat room. Over the course of the next year the regulars in that room became like family to me. We would talk about everything. All that practice made me a fast typist and way better communicator than I was before that. They would even help me when I had trouble understanding something in my college classes. I also met my husband in that room, and we've been happily married for 18 years. Others from our little IRC family are married, too, and we still keep in touch. All because I randomly chose that chat room that day. Edit, wow, this really exploded. Thanks for the awards. I'm happy to know there are so many of you other IRC people out there with good memories like mine. If there's any other of my old IRCnet #pleat chat people out there from 20 years ago, DM me PRK. After all that, did you at least register your copy? Nope. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Saw Kierkegaard. My existence. When my dad was about 20, he needed a phone number, so he called the operator from a pay phone. She gave him the number, he hung up, and she accidentally refunded the money back to the pay phone. She called the pay phone back and asked him if he could put the money back in, which he did and hung up again. She accidentally refunded the money again and had to call back again to ask him to put the money back in, he did and hung up again. She was so flustered, she refunded the money again and called back again, and my father got to chatting with her and got her number. They set up a date, which she stood him up for, then she forgot his name when he called her again, then they actually got coffee and 4 years later were married. This coming August it'll be 50 years for them. If my dad didn't need that phone number, I wouldn't be here. Edit, my dad still calls it the most expensive phone call he ever made. LMAU, I felt bad for her just reading that first part. My heart wouldn't take the stress. She accidentally refunded the money again. That was no accident. I've seen cases where retail staff get into a groove where they will make the same mistake over and over again because that is what they are supposed to do 99% of the time. My desire for pizza set off a chain reaction that destroyed my family. One day got home from school and really wanted pizza. Family was poor, so spontaneous food trips weren't always in the cards. Really worked my pouty face to my mom and begged to go to the local pizza place for dinner. She said all right. While chilling there I saw my uncle walk by, and I was like the fuck, Uncle X, is that you? Now you might say, well, he wanted pizza, what's the big deal? Well, he lived several states away, so to arbitrarily be in town and not tell anyone was strange. Turned out he was having an affair with his sister-in-law, my aunt on the other side of the family. She was basically a money-grubbing whore and the family protested. One thing led to another and everyone hates each other now, and we haven't had contact in like 20 years. I just wanted some pizza. Domino's effect. The other day I was driving home from work, traffic was light and I was behind a car with a number plate that started KFD. Decided to duck through KFC drive-through for chippies with extra salt as a little treat to myself. They took forever to bring them out, and by the time they finally did, all told about 10 minutes later, traffic has slowed to a complete halt. I need to get over a bridge that's normally 6 lanes which has now been reduced to 1. Turns out it's due to a massive collision involving several cars. When I finally get to the point where I'm driving past, I notice the number plate on one of the cars, that same KFD number plate. If I hadn't stopped to get hot chips, I'm fairly sure I'd have been in a major collision. TL, Dr. KFC chippies with extra salt saved my life. Edit, didn't think the chippies would be the most interesting thing in this post. For clarification, I'm Australian, Melbs, and calling them chippies instead of chips improves your quality of life, in Australia at least. Try it and see. Kentucky final destination. When I was in 8th grade, 13 years old, I had a really long bus ride home, so would pass the time by reading. One day I faced the very serious situation of nothing to read and a minute to grab something in the library, and for whatever reason I grabbed a book on astronomy. That book was amazing and grabbed me like nothing else had before. I remember being excited to realize every astronomer on Earth was 13 years old once too, and that was a career you could actually do, even if you were from Pittsburgh. Anyway, today I am a professional astronomer who studies gigantic space explosions for a living. There was a lot of work to get from that moment to this one, but I'm always grateful that I picked up that library book. Edit, I am getting questions on how to be an astronomer, and wrote a detailed post here on this topic at some point. Please read it over, and feel free to message or leave a question here if you have one. Right on. What major did you do in college? Ursa major, BA Dum CHHHHH. I did a physics BSc and a history minor, no real reason for the latter except it was fun. Then I did a physics Master of Science, and an astronomy PhD. I go into detail about my own career path and my general advice on becoming an astronomer on this post. It's a pretty common question on Reddit. At a university career fair and just has a long day taking to companies and heading out when I see a Honda booth. Designing cars would be awesome, but there is a huge line. It has been a long day, and what are the chances? But wait. They are giving away hats and shirts and model cars. So I talk to them. A day later I get a call back for an online assessment. I fill that out and don't hear anything back for a month or so. I get a call one night saying I was an alternate and someone cancelled last minute, so they want to fly me up for on-site interviews. I go and end up getting and accepting an offer. After graduation I move about 1,000 miles away from home for my new job, where a few years after I meet my now wife and we have 2 kids. I never would have crossed paths with her otherwise. So the entire course of my life was shifted because Honda gave away good swag at their career fair booth. I went to a career fair one day, as I wanted to get a job in the IT field. I was in school, ITT Tech, I know, for computer networking. Saw a stand for a gas station chain and thought to myself, I don't want to work at a gas station, and kept on going. Passed out my resume and had a good talk with a local company that a few of my classmates worked. Was about to leave and passed the gas station stand again, but this time I saw IT on their poster. Decided to just see what the IT was about and dropped off my resume. Talked with the recruiter and was told about a department that needed an intern. I got an interview for a position and it was more of a this is what you will be doing and this is what it pays, when can you start? 13 years later I'm still working for a gas station chain and really enjoying it. I was given 2 start dates for an entry-level job in a large organization. The date I choose to start led to working in a small but high-profile team, so I got lots of exposure with senior management and I became the can-do guy who'd fix a million tiny problems. That recognition led to promotions, a fantastic career, further professional qualifications and working overseas for several years. I also met my best friend and my partner. If I'd chosen the other date, I'd have been sent to a data processing pool and been fairly anonymous. Edit: I can't believe I'm actually writing this because in my many throwaways I've got at most 100 upvotes. That said, OMG. When I posted this earlier, I didn't expect anything like the reaction. With the upvotes, comments and kind awards. I think I've replied to everyone and I've read all of your stories and personal experiences. Even the people who subpost mean comments, I know you're better than silly trolling. There's so many wonderful stories, I've had a massive grin reading through them. If you've posted, I have imagined whole lives, rich in joy for you. There are also some stories about people struggling through no fault of their own. To them I would say, please don't give up. It can seem reading these comments that everyone else got ahead in life, but that's only part of the story. Behind every success there's a lifetime of wrong turns and what could have beens. I've had more than a few bumps in the road and I expect many more lie on my future. You may be down but you are not out. Thank you again so much for reading and sharing. I so wish I could meet you all in real life and raise a glass together. You're all such extraordinary, wonderful people. I was given 2 start dates for my new job in March. If I had chosen the earlier one, I would have come into the office for a week before we all went on WFH due to COVID. Instead I started on the WFH start date and had my computer mailed to me. My desk was next to a person on my team who turned out to have COVID. He's young, 31, just a couple years younger than me, but has been out of commission and working part-time because of how tired he's been due to the illness, even months out. If I had chosen the earlier start date, I would have been seated right next to him in a tiny co-working space for a week.